Camel City Chat, and I am in the office of the mothership with Super. Because that's what I'm going to refer to you all day as Super. Okay? So I am here with Tricia McManus, who is the Superintendent of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. Off camera is Brent Campbell, and I am not going to ever say his title again. And we're going to laugh and have fun.
Okay, sounds good to me.
So, but we can make fun of him or stuff?
Sure.
Sure.
He has a fan club. Be careful.
I know, he does have a fan club.
Okay.
And his episode, actually, we're filming this on North Carolina Day. Happy North Carolina Day today.
Oh, my goodness.
Got a text message from a group of friends today. This is North Carolina Day.
That's exciting. I did not know that.
12th state original. Let's see what else. Learned some stuff about succession. We didn't want to secede originally and all this stuff. So, I mean, just it's kind of a whole bunch of cool facts. And it was nice to dig my Ohio friends where I said O-H, North Carolina still flew first. So, that type of thing. So we're just going to have fun. We will talk about one thing that we don't know what's going to happen, but it is near and dear to your heart, and that's where you went to college.
Okay.
Because could be drastically impacted
by the
hurricane.
Yep.
And so, but next week is when we'll drop Brent's episode, and then you're 3 or 4 weeks after that. So,
okay.
All right, you ready?
Sounds great. Yep.
All right. So Tricia McManus here, superintendent, cool lady. You have to meet her. I'm going to ask you the first question, and that is, where are you from, and how long have you been in Winston-Salem?
Okay. I am from Tampa, Florida, born and raised, and entire life was there until 2 years ago. So June of 2020 is when I moved here. So I literally in June celebrated my second anniversary.
So June of 2020, okay. And there's a lot that you have to talk about there because this is where you got your start in education and things like that. So we're going to come back to that.
Yes, okay.
All right, so I gave you a hint months ago that I was going to ask you this question.
Okay.
What's your favorite place to eat?
Oh, gosh.
And you still don't have an answer.
I have so many favorite places to eat because people that have gotten to know me know that I love to eat out. I love to go out to eat. And one of my favorite things about Winston-Salem is all the incredible local restaurants, like not chain restaurants, but true local restaurants. So I have a lot of favorites.
Okay.
And so,
you're not going to hurt anybody's feelings. So we'll review the list. So in 20 minutes we'll come back.
Okay.
So keep saying all those lists.
Okay. I'll just keep running. I'll just keep running.
Yeah,
I love Mozelle's.
Great restaurant.
Really yummy.
Yep.
I love, which is newer, but 600. Love that.
Travis is going to be on the show. Yeah.
Love that.
I took Catherine there 2 weeks ago, and I did not know Travis, and he said, he's a young man, wearing his hat or whatever. He goes, let me sit you at my favorite table. And so right as he set us down, I went, I know who you are. And he goes, who are you? And I told him, he goes, oh, yeah. And so then Andrews gave me his cell phone number, texted him a couple days ago. He's going to do the show, so we're excited about that.
That's great.
Yeah, great restaurant.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love Young Cardinal for
Young
breakfast
Cardinal,
and
Adam
lunch.
Andrews,
Love sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
Love. I mean, there's just too many. The list will go on, and I will say all of them throughout the episode. But the list goes on. I mean, I people say, "Oh, have you been here?"
Cafeteria, Dr. Markel, Moore School.
I have not been there.
Okay, you need to go there. See Dr. Markel. Right?
Okay.
Yeah,
at Moore Elementary. Yeah, you know what? I think I should go do a test of the food.
You should do all
the cafeterias?
Invite like the mayor or senators or stuff
for
like
lunch
that.
at schools.
At schools.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That is a great idea, and also to show the students that I'm actually eating the food, tasting the food that they're eating. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, I've heard things about you, and you've done some pretty cool stuff. I think that you've like been to a school and like have you read? You go and read occasionally at schools and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you go back to school a year later and know the kids that you read to.
Oh, you heard about that?
Yeah, got you caught on that one, didn't I?
Yeah.
So all these kids, you read to them, then you go back the next year and you're like, wait a minute, you, and you. And my buddy's like, how did you know that? Amazing.
That is because our students are very unforgettable. I read to this kindergarten class, and they were the most adorable class at Moore.
Right.
And I read, but not only did I read to them, I asked them questions, got to know them, and honestly, before I left, I almost couldn't stand up because they were all hugging me. I was tipping over while I was trying to leave the room. And anyway, and then I went back again. I think I had gone back again another time before the end of the year because the governor had come.
Right.
And I went in there, and they were like, we remember you. They remember the book I read to them. And so I started just remembering their faces. And then I came back this school year, and now they were in first grade. And so I got to see a lot of them again. Yeah.
Makes an impression on your team when you like do that. And that's what I want to make sure that we get out. Like I was talking to David Daggett this morning after his episode dropped, and I'm like, my goal was to show people who you are and what you give back. With you, it's it's never about the kids, right?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about the kids to you. Brent had
Yes.
alluded to that in his episode, and it's like, the more I'm around you, the more energetic you are and excited you are about school and stuff like that. And, there's a reason why you're in this position. And I just want people to know that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
So I just want to ask you one more question, and that is, what is your favorite thing to do outside of work here?
I should not pause on that because I think I work too much, first of all.
Right.
Because I have to go outside of work. I'm working all the time. My favorite thing to do, honestly, is to get outside and to take walks.
Right.
I love walking.
I know you like to work out.
I just kind of started.
Yeah, but we've talked about that. Yeah.
Thanks to the 5K that
The
I
Home
met
Builders
you at,
did, right?
The Home Builders,
Yep.
and Orange Theory was there. So yeah, I joined.
Okay.
And I've been sticking to my routine, but I actually prefer just to walk and see the sights and walk into downtown and go to parks and just honestly enjoy the beautiful weather that we have here.
It is a unique place. We've got some really cool parks around the area. Have you been to CG Hill? It's over near Reagan yet? Go check that out.
CG Hill, no.
Okay, so CG Hill, you're at Reagan. You come out, you turn right, and go down the hill.
Okay.
There's a pond there that usually has some waterfowl around it, but there's a tree that they say is a 1492 tree. So Columbus is coming over, and you can actually go down and walk inside the tree.
Okay, I'm
Right?
there. I'm
So
always looking for
I
new places.
expect a report back.
I will
Yeah.
tell you.
So there's a lower loop, and then you go up, and there's an upper loop.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That is
Brent will
I
laugh.
can't believe I haven't heard about this.
Brent will laugh about this, so not too loud, Brent. So my wife is a little younger than me,
Okay.
and so she used to rollerblade in school. I didn't do that stuff. You don't rollerblade at Appalachian. And so we went over there. I lasted about 10 minutes. I had every single pad on me, and I was like, I'm walking. You roller. I mean, and doing circles around me, making
Yeah.
fun of me and all that. So there's all kinds of activities there. But I mean, we've got out here. You can go do the frisbee golf and stuff like that. It's right across the road over off of home.
Yeah.
So there's so much to do here.
There is so much to do. My daughter came to visit 2 weekends ago. We went to Roar and we did the boutique bowling, which was so much fun. I actually could do that much better than regular bowling. So I was feeling the success that night. But I love the ambiance there, and just there is a lot to do here. It's a lot of fun.
So tell me, that was actually my next question, because I know that the few times I've been around you, it's like you're either kidding about calling your husband, or I'm going to be, it's like, yeah, I need to get my husband out here to do this or whatever. So, tell me about your family.
I have the most amazing family, and that's my immediate family of my husband and my 2 daughters, Morgan and Megan, and my dog Tebow. But my extended family has always been incredible, and I'm one of 8 children. My mom and dad.
8?
One of 8. I'm one of 8.
Okay.
And 5 of us are educators in the family because my mom and dad both were educators. And but my parents always helped. I've always worked, and my husband we've both always worked, and so my parents were instrumental when my kids were little in helping them get to school. Because again, I was a principal, I was a teacher. You've got early start times, and so my parents. I just have an incredible family support system. So yeah, Mike is my husband. We have been married for 26 years, and Morgan's 25, Megan's 23. Just the loves of my life.
Now, where are the girls now?
So Megan is here with me.
Okay.
Morgan is in Tampa, just finished her nursing degree at University of South Florida.
Right.
And just got her first official job, which I'm so excited. She is going to be a nurse in a labor and delivery unit in a hospital. So
All
I'm
right. So I need to
excited.
give you a name to text your daughter about, because it turns out that I have a friend whose daughter just is about to or just graduated from University of South Florida Nursing School.
No way.
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
I bet it's just now with the cohort.
Just
I probably
like
saw
either
her,
this year or last
if
year.
she did this year, I probably saw her
Yeah.
graduate in
Yeah,
May.
so I'll ask off
Yeah.
camera and see. But yeah, no, it's some friends of mine that she was a realtor here. Her husband worked for Krispy Kreme, and they moved to Jacksonville. And their daughters, I'm 99.9% sure was USF.
Wow.
Yeah.
They have a great nursing program there. So, but Morgan, again, you know, when she visited me, of course, I'm taking her all the favorite restaurant. We probably ate at 7 restaurants in 2 days, all amazing. And I'm like, don't you love it here? There's tons of nursing jobs here, tons of labor and delivery jobs. I mean, and so she was like, it is great, Bob. So we'll see. We don't know what the future holds, you know, day to day here.
It is interesting as we get older. It's like, I'm probably moving close to parents, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah. So. Well, the day she has children, you know, I want to be able to do what my parents did for me, and that is to help her with her children, because she's now in that phase of I need to work, and I want to work. I want to be able to pursue my goals and my dreams. And if she has children one day, I want to be able to help her, just like my parents did.
So did you know what you wanted to do? Because I mean, you know, obviously you're in Tampa. You're a hometown girl. You know, you go back to. I mean, you go to the hometown school.
Yeah.
And you get your degree from USF.
Yep.
And then it's like, oh, hey, you know, I really like it here, and why don't I go a little longer? And so you get your master's degree.
Yes.
So you're a bull.
Yep. I'm a bull.
Okay. And then it starts. So what it was Hillsborough County first place you got hired?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I got hired as a teacher.
An elementary school teacher.
Yes.
And what grade?
My very first job was at Forest Hills in 4th grade. But the interesting story was, at that time, which is very unusual. This is a very unusual time. This was back in 1990. There were more teachers when they did the unit process, which here we call it allotment process. There were more teachers than there were necessary positions based on the number of students. And so for a period of time, I was cut my position, because I was the last one hired in the summer. My position was cut, and so there were no other positions to move this group of about 12 new teachers into. We didn't lose our jobs, luckily, because we had a contract. And so that year, after building relationships with my class, who I loved, 4th grade class, I started subbing. They just put me back at my school, and every day I was in a different classroom and helping, which was incredible because I got to know the whole school. Well, in January of that year, that was August, in January of that year, a position came open. A teacher left on maternity in my
I was going to say
school.
maternity leave.
Maternity,
Yep. Right.
and I got put in her job, which was a 2nd grade class. So the rest of the year I taught in a 2nd grade class, and that was the start of my career back in 1990. And I taught, and then became an assistant principal a few years later, and then a principal a few years later, and then I just kept kind of, you know, trying to have a greater impact, and got, you know, things happened at the right time. I've never been a person that says, oh, I'm just going to keep going for a job. I know when I'm ready for that next step, and for me, it's never been about like, oh, I need to get a promotion. I want to upward. It's always for me been about what can I do that will have greater impact on the organization. So.
Well, I will tell you that, you know, remember this, folks. She got cut from her first job, and then now you're sitting in the superintendent's office. So it is truly about perseverance. The other thing that I noticed, and I hope people, you know, if you want to rewind real quick and look at this, when I said elementary school teacher, the sun blacked out for a minute because you were just like, you know, I mean, you remember that with such fondness.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, but the key, and then we're going to take a quick break, is, I want to come back from the break and talk about this, is you've swept the broom. So you didn't get a doctorate in leadership, et cetera, and come in as a staff member. You swept the broom. And so when I come to you as a teacher and say, oh, well, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? Granted, it's 1990, but it's still, kids still learn the same way.
Yes.
And they still have the same problems. Some are different now, but you swept the broom.
Yep.
And I think that makes you better in your position.
Yes. And you know what? I swept the broom, but then literally 5 years ago, I was an assistant superintendent, and I swept the broom again because we had vacancies in some of our highest need schools, and I asked the superintendent if we could have central office folks go back to support schools as teachers. And so I actually co-taught with a sub that had no teaching background. So for half a school year, every morning, I taught with this substitute every morning a third grade math class at James Elementary. And so I did that, my whole team did it because I led by example, which I think is really important. And it was incredible because, again, you always have to remember where you came from, and you cannot lose sight of the challenges that folks face. And the challenges of today are very different than the challenges of 1990. I mean, to me, kids are kids, and they're incredible. But yeah, so I think it's important that we stay very connected and deeply rooted in why we went into this profession, and at any time, we should be able to go in classrooms and teach. I don't care where you are in the system. So, yeah.
I want to talk more about that. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Camel City Chat. Hey everybody, welcome back to Camel City Chat. I'm here with the Superintendent, Tricia McManus. We've been talking about a whole bunch of things. We ended last segment about sweeping the broom, and I have taught one time in my life. I actually got my master's from Winston-Salem State and went back and taught 2 classes, Intro to Sales Team Management and Sales, I think it was.
At the college level?
Yeah, intro to Business and Sales and Sales Team Management at the college level.
Cool.
Yeah. No, I'm not subbing. And so I'm scared of kids. They will chew me up and spit me out. But no, so in that, one of the things that I talked about to students is realize who the most important person is. And it's with your organization, you're one of the few people that do this. You flip the triangle. So everyone thinks that it all flows up. It actually all flows down.
Absolutely.
And I gave the example of if you are nice to, let's say, a custodian person every day, because they're just like you, if you're nice to the person that lets you in the building every single day, at 10 o'clock when you forget your phone and you knock on the door, if you're mean to that person, they're going to ignore you and say, hey, come back tomorrow morning. If you've been nice to people and treated people just like dignity and respect, they may go look in the room for you. That, I would say, is one of your huge steps in your leadership, is sweeping the broom. The other is you place the emphasis on the most important person, the end receiver of the product.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
Well,
we've got the rest of the show to talk about. I'm just going to sit back. But no, tell me about your feelings, of the end user.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea about flipping the triangle. Because honestly, we all win in this because of students, because of kids, and just helping them become successful and just reaching endless possibilities for their future. And their pre-K to 12 education is so critical in determining that future trajectory. So kids are why we went into this profession. I mean, I don't think anyone that goes to education is doing it for any other reason. And I will tell you that I think people that end up leaving at some point before they obviously reach retirement, which a lot of people get to that point. I mean, I'm in my 33rd year right now. And so is because either they become so disillusioned by bureaucracy and other things that they're like, I just can't do it. Or maybe it wasn't really because of kids in the first place, because at the end of the day, the majority of our folks, and when I go to lunch with bus drivers, and I go to lunch with our student child nutrition workers, and I go with they always go back to how much they love our students, and that's what they do. It is the same answer for everything, and so many of our teachers, that's our why, and all of us, that's our why. And if that truly is your why, and it is not about self, but it really is about just making a difference in our world and making a difference every day for our kids, then at any time in your profession, you should have no problem going back and being a teacher, going back and being a principal, going back. You should never lose sight of that. And it speaks volumes when you go to your superintendent and say, we cannot have kids not being educated this year. Can we ask central office people to go back? And when we asked, 15 of us did out of 300-400 people. And so that reaction I was not happy about that reaction, because it makes me wonder, our whole purpose is making sure our kids have a great education.
So 5%
went back.
Yeah, because it was a voluntary who will do this, and I was disappointed.
And obviously, there's another factor that Mike, is now, what is he doing in the afternoon? Because you are doing not your job and then having to go back and do your job. So obviously longer hours.
Yes, it's longer hours, and it's not like the jobs we were doing were not important, and that's where some people don't understand. Everybody's job in a system is important. Everybody. I mean, everyone at central office has a something they're running, overseeing, something that's critical in nature to the system as a whole. And so we couldn't just say, well, we're going to stop that job or you wouldn't need that job, right? And so that was really, a lot of people were worried, well, if I go back and do this half-time, what does that say about my job? Well, your job still has to get done. And so we know you're going to have to do that after hours. So this is a major commitment, and not everybody wants to do that, but I did, and I have a family that supports that and fills in the gaps, and that's just the way we work together.
And I have a question about that I already know the answer. In your career, in leadership, management, etc., when is the period that was the most absolute fun? And it's probably then, because you got the secret sauce back, and you were doing your regular job.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, that was awesome because it also, working with teachers again on that school, because I was like one of the staff.
Right.
And it was fun because the principal, so I was in charge of, in the system of developing principals. I was in charge of the principal pipeline, and so developing for you. Now I'm in a school.
Right.
And I have the principal who I get to now see, what is the communication?
Right.
What is the support? How often do I see you come by my classroom? I'm living there. I'm not sure the principal liked it too much, but
that was going to be an earlier question.
Fun.
What was your highest position when your girls were in school? And did they go to your, it's like, oh God, mom's this.
No, you know what? No, my kids never went to my schools because, again, they went close to home so that my family support system could help, because I always kind of went away from my school, from where I lived, where I worked. And so I had afternoon sessions, and so I just needed where they could get picked up quick, taken home with my parents. And so I couldn't have my parents drive 45 minutes to come pick up my kids to do stuff for me. So they always went kind of to their neighborhood school, but I never worked in my neighborhood schools. So I always went out to more urban, to closer to the city schools. Yep.
All right, so I got to put the glasses on for this, because this is something that you have as part of your job, but again, we'll touch back to the end user. So you are considered a specialist in underperforming schools, all right? It's a numbers game to others. So in one instance, you had DNFs. There were 32 of them. You took it down to 26 in 1 year. And it was predicted you'd take it down to only 6 after that. So it is a numbers game. And I know I saw in the news something about we're trying to find students right now and things like that. But again, going back to the end user, how do you take the numbers games to satisfy the mass, but then bring it back down to the end user?
Yep. Well, I will tell you that the worst thing that schools can do is just look at kids through that number. I will tell you that. And so
the EOG. My gosh.
No. And so I think that, so at the end of the day, you've got to be strategic with your data for sure. But at the end of the day, the goal is you provide every student with the highest quality of education every single day. You create a positive culture where every student feels like they can excel, and then you honestly create the conditions where they do excel. And then you've got to be strategic with your interventions, like kids that are struggling. I mean, so everything is extremely focused, targeted, but that culture being positive for kids and not being punitive in nature is really an important part of the process. Now, with all that every day, with very intentionality around looking at students. So if you're a student that is not where you need to be, what exactly do you need, and how am I going to make sure you get that? How do I give you a double dose, a triple dose, but make it fun? I mean, this is not about drill and kill. Let me hand you more papers to do. That is not effective at all. And you can make the movement. That's what I've seen. But all the ingredients have to be there, and the principal's role is critical in this transformation, where they're spending their time, how they're developing their folks, how they're coaching, how they're giving feedback. I mean, this is not like just show up every day and think you're going to transform a school. That does not happen. It is very intentional work every day that is about improving the culture and making sure the instruction is high quality. Yeah, I mean, it is not rocket science, but it is literally great practice every day.
So I want to come back and talk about how you got people back to school, but I want to ask this question off of the one you just answered, and that is, I have an 8-year-old daughter. She lost some, but didn't do as much virtual based on where she goes and things like that. But how are we going to take these first, second, and third graders are the ones? Mm-hmm. How are we going to catch them up? Mm-hmm. And what is your plan? I mean, does that go over to our safe return, or is that something?
Yeah, I mean it's part of our way forward, our safe return, but now our way forward, and that is honestly, our kids are all in school now. Last year was a challenging year because of a lot of absences. I mean, 40% of our students last year were chronically absent, meaning they had 10% or more absences, and a lot of that was quarantining. I mean, was exclusion. And so this year, the exclusionary practices, obviously toward the end of last year, that changed where they were less. Mm-hmm. So that's really good, because you've got to be in school consistently to stay on track with your learning. Again, we've got the right resources in the hands of our teachers. All of our teachers at the elementary schools have been going through this letters training, which is a science of reading. And so what I am seeing in classrooms throughout the district are going back to a strong foundations around phonics and phonemic awareness, which is really important to learning how to read. Right. And again, having resources in the hands of our teachers. They should not have to be like looking all over the internet and finding resources. They've got those in their hands. We've given classroom libraries to teachers. So with really strong training, classroom libraries, so kids can have great books in their hands, coupled with the high quality instruction every day, and then honestly, extra tutoring. Every school has a budget to make sure that students that might need additional supports can get them. We call that ELP. We've also started a Reading Warriors program. We have an NC Ed Core tutoring program. So students that need additional supports outside of that strong instructional core being provided by our teachers, there should be no excuse why they don't get those extra supports. So all of that together is again, the formula. Again, everything has to be, though, at the optimal level of performance. So again, you cannot have one of those things subpar, one of those things mediocre.
Yeah, and with my daughter, you probably don't know that I have ADD, or as I say, ADSHD, attention deficit. Ooh, shiny. You're being real nice and saying that you can't tell.
You are so funny.
Lie.
I am not a person that diagnosed.
But I mean, you've been around me long enough. Oh, so what's this? But so we did the tutoring route, and pretty happy with the fact that so she's a third grader now. Just had she's a fourth grade level, so
awesome.
We're excited. And she and I read Harry Potter together, and actually she's reading it a little bit on her own. So
that's incredible.
But it's amazing that positive encouragement and what it makes kids do. Yeah. I want to carry this over after this break, but I want to get started on this. We have a lot of situations that you all have to be conscious of. Single parent, no parent, living with a grandparent or someone else, economically challenged, abused. I mean, no kid that walks into that classroom is the same every day. And when Brent, I think it was Brent that said this, so you can give me the nod if you did, but it's all about the meal. And if you show up and your first day of school, you get a backpack and it's got stuff in it, that makes your whole year. And so how do you address all of those factors that, that as individuals we bring into the classroom. So hold that thought.
I will.
And we'll be right back with more Camel City Chat. Welcome back. I'm here with Tricia McManus, the superintendent. You like how I do that?
I like that.
Yeah. Now, does your husband call you super at home?
Oh, gosh, no.
Oh, yeah, we need to talk to him. But no, when I was going to break, and Brent was so kind to say, nope, that was David. But, you know, it's that first day when you hand that backpack to that child, that makes or breaks their year. If they have a bad first day of school, you're struggling uphill. But how do you train, and they're coming in for training downstairs. How do you train us to look for these things, to assess these things, to handle these things? As Dr. Markell told me, he says, we're very lucky. We have a clinic where a kid just may need someone to talk to sometime.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother aspect of the job besides teaching them. You've got to feed them, and so what are your challenges there, ma'am?
So first of all, we have our students set 6 to 7 hours a day, and then if they're in extracurriculars or things that happen after school, maybe it's 8, 9.
Okay.
The rest of the time, they're not with us, and so my approach has always been really focus in on what you can control, and our students, when we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it is very true. If you are hungry, if you are dealing with trauma, you need to, other kinds of trauma, to get into a classroom and expect every child to just be ready for learning and to, it's not going to happen. You've got all of our kids are all over the place. And so first and foremost, you need to know everybody's story. And that is our responsibility as educators. You are not, these are not widgets coming into our school. These are people. And every one of them has a story. And so when I think back to my principalship, I had a lot of students with a lot of great needs. We knew them all. And I had a strong social services team of my psychologist, social worker, counselor, school counselor, and behavior person. And we would triage, and we knew every one of our children, every one of them. And we knew their stories, and we knew their families, and you do that by ongoing building of relationships. And a lot of intentionality around that. You have to know, and so part of that is stopping and getting to know. I mean, it's not, our kids are not little widgets. They are actual people with so much. And so if your kid might have missed meals, and you make sure they get them, and even if they come in late, you let them go get the meal. You don't stop and say, oh, nope, after hours, sorry. Oh, no, there were many of times that I took late kids to the cafeteria and got the meals myself. And the adults were not allowed to say, nope, it's after time. So again, clothing, we know our kids. I would go visit kids at home. I would know their parents. They'd walk in, I'd say, come to my office. That was important. The relationship piece is critical in our profession. We are not just responsible for reading, writing, math, and science, because those things will not happen with everything else being the needs of our students not being met. The other really big important part of this is around how someone does someone feel capable of excellence, capable of that success. There is a ton of research around expectations that we have for children. And so we've got to make sure our kids know that they can achieve greatness, which is why you don't determine someone's ability by a number on a paper. And you don't schedule them on this schedule just because of a number on a paper, because you are missing the mark of what kids are capable of. And sometimes we inadvertently put someone in a box. And I have that exact, my own daughter has special needs. And I was told when she was a baby, a little, 4, 5, I think it is, when she was in kindergarten and a psychological was being done on her, that she would be trainable mentally handicapped. Megan has Down syndrome, and I basically at that time said, you're going to determine that the future of my child, that she is trainable, and that's kind of where she's going to go based on this one test. And I said, I don't agree with you. And that is how I approach our kids every day. Don't put them in a box. Don't determine what they're going to be capable of becoming by a number on a paper. You get to know them. You build them up. My 3 C's are what I feel like how we should make sure every child is cared for, connected, and capable. Feels capable, connected, and cared for. If we do that every day with every child, then we can see what they're capable of. which is absolute in greatness, every one of them.
So I almost wanted to say, all right, turn this off, because we've got so many things to discuss about this, because it is true. You know, the labeling is scary, and when we went to Appalachian, there's a formula. When you went to your counselor the first time, they told you what your GPA was going to be at Appalachian. It's like, oh, well, you did really good. I'm like, why is that? Well, the first semester, I almost made Dean's List. Right. I didn't end with that number. I got closer to what their number was going to be. But, what happened, what we learned in college through extracurricular activities was way more than I could have ever achieved in the classroom.
Right.
On a committee to help select the vice chancellor, because of involvement in other organizations and things like that. So that I love what you're saying there. I mean, just because I may not do well in the classroom, I may achieve somewhere else. And how many people do you see that are, so smart in different ways that they don't even finish college or things like that. So I have said to many people, if I could go back now, I don't know if I wouldn't become a plumber, an electrician, or an HVAC person, because I feel like they print money. The trades are amazing. But you address that too, though. You have a career center. So you're able to then take a child that, has the gift of hands and do that. So how do you identify and support them through this capability?
Well, and it's not just at Career Center. We have a lot of other career pathways. It starts at middle school with a lot of starting to get kids interested in a variety of potential career options. And again, I think the biggest thing is us not determining what that future path is, the student and their family helping determine what that future path is. But it's providing a lot of exposure. That is what we should be doing, exposure. And it starts at middle school. And they do. They get to take some different courses in middle school to start getting them in the thinking of, oh, these are all careers. But, to say that, people can do both pathways, career and college, because what you learn in your career pathways are it makes students interested. We have data that shows that students are involved in a CTE track. We have a 100% graduation rate for students that are in a CTE track.
And I'm profane. I'm not of the temple here. So what is CTE?
Yeah, CTE, Career and Technical Education.
Okay, thank you.
So kids that are actually in one of those formalized tracks, they're graduating because part of it is the interest. It doesn't mean they have to go into that career, but part of it is the connection. Remember the 3 C's: capable, connected, and cared for. How do we keep them connected to school? Things like career pathways keep students connected. Sports keep students connected. Extracurricular, the arts keep students connected. And so it is not just about what happens in that classroom. There's so many other factors. So your point about your involvement at APP outside of the classroom and how that helped you grow even more.
Right.
All of these are ways that you connect people and make them interested in school. You have to have, think about it. You go off to college, you have to have your basic classes of English. That's just part of the thing. Well, you may not like those classes. You may not be very successful at those classes, but if you know to be in these other things, you've got to also be able to do those classes. It makes you more connected to the rest of your schooling. So it's really it's important. It also opens doors. You're right. Those skills trades, those are critical and they make good money. So to expose our students to that, students that start finding interest in those things to help them know how to move to that career path, I think is important. But I also think it is very important that students get to make those decisions about their future and that we are not putting them into any kind of, this is what you should be doing. I think all kids are capable of a college pathway. I really do.
And it is interesting, though. I've started to see recently that parents aren't pushing the college thing as much. They're, some are like, well, you need to take a year off and think about it. You want to do community college and then decide where you want to go. My next door neighbor, she, was looking at schools and stuff, and then all of a sudden did an official visit to the finest institution in the world where her mother went, 3,333 feet above sea level. That would be what, Brent?
Appalachian State.
Thank you. And so all of a sudden she went up there and she's like, this is where I'm going. And I've seen just this change in a week in her. I made a comment about, she was at the game, and I said, I'm sorry about that. She goes, what are you sorry about? I said, I wish we'd done better. She goes, that's okay. Maybe I'll bring them luck next year. And I'm like, you just decided 2 days ago that you're going there, and now. Yeah. So I mean, it's not only is it a path that you guys, I think, create in some of these situations, it's a paved road.
Yeah.
And if some people are going to bushwhack. But if you've got a paved road, a couple of them in front of it, it's amazing how that happens.
It's options, and helping kids understand, know, and actually believe that any of those options they're capable of any of those options. I am trying to push more dual enrollment. We've got the opportunity for so many students to take dual enrollment classes with Forsyth Tech and to get some of their college actually already paid for. It's really a great opportunity that we don't take enough advantage of, and I think part of it is that some of our students don't understand that they are very capable. But we have to provide the supports, just like students taking more rigorous coursework. There's more students capable of that than are in those classes, and we have to provide the supports. And so, community college is a great avenue to get started, because sometimes going from small classes, 35, 40 kids, going to a large first-year college
600
in a 4-year,
people,
600 people is a difficult transition. I also think you said something important, and that is, there's so much more to life than your grade on a paper and a number on a test score. And I think that students that struggle further down the line are those that have not faced any adversity within or had this mindset that it is because I am smart that I am achieving. It is really more about hard work that allows you to be successful. And so as we start to, there's a whole body of research that I love, and it is by Carol Dweck, and it is growth mindset. And kids that then give up later because they might see a failure, they might not do as well as they've been accustomed to doing with, they struggle sometimes when adversity hits. Maybe you didn't get into that club, maybe you didn't get into that program, and then, oh my gosh, what do I do? Because I'm used to always, it really is about work, tireless effort, and that's where we've got to make sure our kids know all of you are capable of achieving greatness, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. And but again, us making sure that we are providing exposure to all the possibilities, and then and then supporting our kids so that they pick what's going to make them happy down the road, and where they can see success. And it's not going to come without challenges. And a challenge is not a negative. It's a positive.
We're going to take a break.
Yep.
And I'm going to prep you ahead of time.
Okay.
The next one's going to be about you.
Okay.
And we're going to maybe SWOT analysis, where you are, what you're doing, all that kind of stuff, your goals, et cetera, however you want to handle it.
Okay.
So we'll be right back with more Camel City Chat and the soup, or intended. Welcome back, and I just want to say this has been awesome before we get into any of this, but I want to talk about you. I want to go back to June of 2020. What was that like? Where are you at, and where do you want to go? I think we've got about 7 minutes left before you probably got to get to another meeting.
That's not going to be enough time. June of 2020 was, it just seems very surreal now at this point, because we were like the pandemic, it was the start. March is when schools kind of closed or moving into April, and no one knew what was going to happen. And then June is when I got hired and when I started. And so I drove here to a lot of things closed down, and it was a very odd situation, and came as the deputy superintendent to do work that I love, which is supporting our principals, being over leadership development, being over the area superintendents, and supporting our superintendent at the time that hired me. Little did I know in 6 months or less than 6 months that I would be serving as an interim superintendent. So I think that's a very important part of my story, is that I did not come to Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools to be the superintendent. I came for a body of work that I love, and to support what I knew to be an incredible community, and a school district that was a fourth of the size of the one that I was coming from. And that seemed exciting to me. Still with the same diversity, still with the same just supportive community, and still with just a lot of the same challenges academically. When I looked at, there was a lot of parallels. So I was excited about this, really excited about this opportunity, and I still am today. I walked into a strategic plan that I believed in, from the core values all the way to the 5 main goals that we're trying to achieve for the students in our district and our entire community. I bought into those, and so what I got to do, where many times a new superintendent comes in and has to do all this listening tour and take all this time, that had been done. I came in now to see that plan through. And so it's a 5-year plan, and if we can achieve what's in that 5-year plan, we will have achieved great things for our school district.
I'm sorry, when you
When,
achieve.
not if, when. Did
Yes,
I say
ma'am.
if?
Yes, ma'am.
That's very unusual for me.
Yeah, no.
When.
When.
When we achieve
And I know
the
you
goals
will.
set forth. Yeah.
I mean, there's no question about it.
Yeah. And, yeah.
Interactions with staff. I mean, everyone that I talk to loves you, but how do you keep your we've got every position in the world. So I mean, how do you interact with staff in the sense of making everyone feel that they are communicated with and things like that?
Yep.
Besides that one over there,
Besides
he
my
does
amazing
everything.
Brent Campbell.
Yeah, Brent Campbell.
So I look at communications, and I look at my role maybe a little differently than some large district superintendents do. And again, I'm generalizing and probably shouldn't be, but I believe in personal interactions, and I believe I do not believe that my position separates me from our people.
Okay.
I believe that I need to be with our folks.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be in schools as much as possible. I need to be interacting with teachers and bus drivers and custodian. And so as much as I can be out, and even our community, attend events and be out and actually make personal connections with folks, I think is really important. I also believe that my team that I work with every day, all of them leading in that same way is very important. We are doing a book study right now, and I think this will kind of paint the picture of what I believe in with leadership. We are reading the Stephen Covey book called Trust and Inspire, and it's the opposite of a command and control leadership style. And nobody rises to the great leaders they can be or great employees they can be when they are in a command and control environment, because what that leads to is compliance and a lot of checking boxes. That does not get results. Checking boxes and creating more policy after policy after policy does not get results for kids.
It's interesting you say that, because I can tell you a little bit more about it, but one of the things that I have discovered is in certain situations people just care about keeping their job. Mm-hmm. They want to have that control, they want to have different things like that, and I don't think that would settle well with you.
No, yeah. And that is not how I approach the day-to-day.
Right.
I'm not worried about that. I'm
right.
not worried. I am honestly staying focused on empowering all the educators in our system, from senior team, every person in our system, empower them to always do what's right on behalf of kids.
And what's funny is I wasn't talking about you, I was talking about in staff positions, but it's funny that you mentioned that, because the last time I was here when I interviewed Brent, we talked about that. It's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You will go into a situation, what's the worst thing that can happen to me? Okay, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Yep, you got to stay true to what you believe and to your core, and for me it's about always doing what's right by kids, and that sometimes is harder than just doing the easy thing. And so we're trying to push on some of the policies that were created 20 years ago, 25 years ago. That was a different time. What do those policies need to look like now? And honestly, and I always give examples like this, if you've got staff members, you've got an entire staff of teachers and educators, and all of them but 3 are on time every day, okay? On time. They're in their classrooms ready to go. You've got 3 that walk in late every day. Why do you create a policy or a protocol that punishes everybody for the 3? And so this is my philosophy in leadership. What you do is you address the 3. You don't create a new protocol that says, you know what, because I'm so frustrated by the 3, and because I can't coach those 3, document those 3, hold those 3 accountable, that I'm going to make a statement like, from now on when you walk in the door, that the book is going to be gone at 8 o'clock, and you got to go to a secretary's office to sign in. These are the kind of dumb things that happen over time that people do, leaders do, and they do it in this reactive mode of trying to correct these 3. You got a strong staff of everybody else. Why are you going to create that structure Because then when you walk in and you're a rock star every day, but you had a sick child this morning, you walk in 5 minutes late on the first time, and now you've got to go do that. That's how policies are created. Policies are always created because this was a problem by a very small number of people, and now let's impact everybody. That does not empower your folks, and that is a command and control style of leadership. That's what we're trying to change in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, is empower our people to always do what's right by kids, even when it's harder. And that is when you're going to get creative ideas, out-of-the-box ideas. You're going to get people that are going to say, okay, not why we can't do something, but how can we get something done? That's where we're moving in our school district.
I learned this in my last job. The rules are usually created by those that have never swept the broom.
You know what? That is very true. Or they swept the broom and have forgotten. Mm-hmm. Because that is also possible.
Yep.
That they've done the job, but they forget. And I've always remembered exactly what it was like to be a teacher, exactly what it was like to be a principal, exactly. And never forgetting that and always leading from that is really important.
All right, last question. It doesn't have to be demise. What does Superintendent Tricia McManus, lucky number 8, that's
It
you're
is
the
lucky.
8.
Yeah, lucky number 8.
Lucky number
I
8.
never have thought about it like that.
Numbers game. What do you want to be remembered for? When you decide to retire, don't worry, Brent answered this good. So what do you want to be required, what do you want to be remembered for when you decide to step away?
That I was relentless about,
Check, okay.
yeah, about every student that is in our school district excelling. That I was relentless about making sure that every student is successful in our school district, whatever it takes.
There you have it. Number 8. And hopefully you were in that position for a long time. She's awesome. And I appreciate you doing the show with us. We'll be back next week with more Camel City Chat. Don't forget to check out Smitty's notes. And again, we'll put some links at the bottom. You got to get involved. It's so simple to read to a child. 15 minutes or a week. You can go a couple times. They need school supplies. We'll get you in touch with the right people in this through Brent's and this one. And appreciate you being here and doing this for us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's my
First time I've
honor.
ever been in a principal's office and I wasn't nervous.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.